There are moments in life that do not feel normal the second they happen. Someone steps into your world and the air changes before a single clear reason appears. You try to act calm. You try to explain it away. But something inside you already knows this is not just another passing meeting. It feels bigger, stranger, sharper, like life has quietly moved one piece on the board and nothing after that can return to the old pattern. Maybe you have been telling yourself to forget them. Maybe you have tried to stay busy, stay logical, stay in control. But if you are still thinking about them now, there is a reason. Not every connection is meant to be easy, and not every silence means the story is over. Some people enter your life to shake you awake. Some appear to show you what your heart has been waiting to remember. And some leave a mark so deep that even distance cannot erase it. So before you scroll away, stay with me. Because what feels confusing right now may actually be the clearest sign you have seen in a long time. And what happens next in this connection may depend on what you finally understand tonight. Listen closely, because this may explain more than you expect. You can look back over the timeline again and again and still fail to explain why this person affected you the way they did. The facts may seem small, the conversations may not have lasted long enough, the circumstances may have been messy, delayed, unfinished, or painfully unclear, yet none of that changes the feeling that something real happened here. Deep down, you know logic was never leading this story. They did not simply appear in your life like everyone else. They arrived with a kind of force that felt quiet on the outside and life-changing on the inside. Since then, something in you has shifted. Your emotional world is not the same. Your inner standards are not the same. Even your way of seeing love, truth, and your own future has started to change. And that is why this is so hard to dismiss. If it were fantasy, time would have drained it. If it were only attraction, distance would have cooled it. If it were just loneliness, replacement would have solved it by now. But none of that happened. The feeling stayed. It changed shape, yes, but it stayed. That matters. And if this message is finding you at the exact moment you needed it, then maybe your heart is ready to stop fighting what it already knows. Stay here, because the next part matters even more than the pain itself. Right now, you may feel pulled in two directions at once. One part of you wants to let go, protect yourself, move on, and never look back. Another part stays quietly connected, as if some invisible thread still exists no matter how far you try to walk. That inner split can be exhausting. It can make you doubt your own mind. It can make you wonder if you imagined the depth, if you read too much into small moments, if hope has made you blind. But there is something important to understand here. False things usually collapse under time and silence. Illusions become thinner when reality presses on them. They do not keep growing roots in the soul month after month. What you feel may not mean the ending is reunion. It may not mean this person is guaranteed to return, but it does mean the connection carried weight, real weight. The kind that teaches, the kind that exposes hidden needs, hidden fears, hidden truths you were too distracted to face before. And that is why the memory of them keeps returning in still moments, late nights, random signs, sudden emotional waves, and quiet hours when your mind is finally not performing for the world. If you know this feeling, then you know it is not loud obsession. It is something more steady, more mysterious, more personal. Keep listening, because this difference changes everything. What makes this connection so hard is not only the feeling itself, but the fact that it touched parts of you that had been asleep for a very long time. It brought your deeper self to the surface. It made you face the gap between what you were settling for and what your heart actually wants. Before this person, maybe you could still accept half love, mixed signals, emotional distance, or shallow attention dressed up as affection. But once you felt something more alive, something more honest, something that seemed to reach beyond ordinary attraction, you could not go back to pretending those smaller things were enough. That is why this connection keeps living inside you. It did not only make you want someone, it made you meet yourself. It showed you your capacity for presence, depth, loyalty, tenderness, and emotional courage. It also showed you your wounds, your fear of loss, your hunger for clarity, Your tendency to chase what stays uncertain. All of it came into the light. And that is not meaningless. Some connections come to stay right away. Others come first to wake you up. They break the old structure before life builds the new one. If that is what happened here, then the pain has not been empty. It has been shaping you into someone who can no longer live a smaller emotional life. And that is why the story still matters. There is also another truth that many people do not want to hear. Sometimes one person becomes aware of the depth before the other is ready to face it. One heart opens faster. One soul recognizes the mirror sooner. The other feels the same force but pulls back because it is too much, too exposing, too disruptive to the life they thought they were controlling. When that happens, distance does not always mean lack of feeling. Sometimes it means the feeling hit so deep that they did not know how to handle it. Some people carry enormous emotion behind a calm face. Some go silent not because they do not care, but because they care in a way that scares them. Vulnerability asks something of them they are not used to giving. It asks them to drop old defenses, old habits, old stories about staying safe. And many people would rather disappear than be seen that clearly. So if they withdrew, it may not have been because nothing was there. It may have been because too much was there. That does not excuse confusion. It does not make avoidance healthy. But it can explain why a connection that felt real suddenly entered silence. Watch this closely, because understanding this point can save you from blaming yourself for everything that changed when the truth may be far more complex than you were told. Still, this is where your own growth becomes the turning point, because no matter what they feel, your path cannot be built around waiting for proof every day. There is a huge difference between attachment and alignment. Attachment says, I need this person to return so I can feel okay again. Alignment says, I am already coming back to myself, and from that place, I will see what is truly meant for me. One path keeps you anxious, the other makes you stronger. One path turns every sign into a desperate search. The other lets signs pass through a calm heart without control. This is the shift happening inside you now, whether you noticed it or not. You are learning to stop chasing clarity and start becoming it. You are learning that self-respect is not coldness. Peace is not giving up. Grounded hope is not weakness. In fact, the more centered you become, the more the entire dynamic changes. Because when your energy is no longer reaching outward in fear, the connection has to reveal its real shape. It can no longer feed on uncertainty alone. It must either grow up or fall away. That is powerful. And yes, they can feel this shift too. People feel when your presence changes. They feel when your attention is no longer begging. They feel when your silence becomes steady instead of wounded. And that is often when hidden truth starts rising. As the pressure changes, something begins to move beneath the surface. A heart that once kept itself sealed may start to feel the cost of staying closed. The idea of losing you fully can become more frightening than the risk of trying again. That is when fear begins to weaken. That is when reality replaces fantasy. Because love cannot live forever as a private feeling with no action, no honesty, no accountability. Eventually, it has to become real or reveal that it never could. And what you are moving toward now is not a dramatic chase. It is a test of truth. If they come back, it will not be enough for them to return with emotion alone. It will need intention. It will need clarity. It will need the courage to meet you in the open space you have built inside yourself. And if they do not, then another truth becomes clear. You will not break the way you once feared, because the deeper lesson of this connection has already started to root inside you. You are no longer the version of yourself who would collapse without their presence. You are becoming someone who can feel deeply without abandoning your own center. That changes the ending, whatever the ending becomes. So if you feel the energy shifting lately, if something seems softer, quieter, closer even without words, do not ignore it, but do not rush it either. Let truth walk at its own pace. What this experience has really been doing is teaching you the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between longing and alignment, between intensity and intimacy. Intensity can feel powerful, but it does not always build a life. Intimacy is quieter. It is honest. It is lived. It does not hide behind mixed signals and call that destiny. It does not leave you starving for scraps while telling you to trust the process forever. True connection asks for courage on both sides. It asks for mutual presence. It asks for truth spoken out loud, not only felt in silence. And that is why your standards are changing. You no longer want confusing energy dressed up as something sacred. You want what is real. You want consistency. You want depth that can stand in daylight, not only in longing, dreams, and unfinished emotion. This is a major shift. Do not underestimate it. Because when you stop romanticizing confusion, you stop becoming available to relationships that drain your spirit. You begin to see more clearly. You begin to trust your body, your peace, your timing. You begin to notice that what is for you will not require you to betray yourself to keep it alive. That is not bitterness, that is wisdom. And wisdom born through pain has a very different power. If you feel that power waking up in you now, then you are already moving closer to the truth than you were before. You may have noticed that your thoughts of them are changing too. They may still come often, but not in the same frantic way. There is more space around them now, more stillness, more awareness, less panic, less fantasy, more honesty. This is important. It means the connection is no longer controlling you in the old way. It is revealing you. Pain begins to turn into understanding when you stop asking only why this happened and start seeing what it came to uncover. Maybe it came to strip away your old patterns. Maybe it came to show you how often you confused being chosen with being valued. Maybe it came to teach you that your heart can hold enormous love and still remain dignified. Maybe it came to show you where you shrink, where you overgive, where you wait too long, where you ignore your own inner signals because you fear losing what feels rare. All of that matters. And as you see it, suffering starts to loosen its grip. Not because the story is fully resolved, but because you are no longer powerless inside it. You are participating in your own transformation now. You are not just the one who was left in silence. You are the one becoming more conscious, more honest, more whole. And when one person in a powerful bond truly changes, the dynamic cannot stay exactly the same. Something has to respond. Something already is. On their side, whether they speak it or not, this connection may be doing its own work. Silence can become a mirror. Space can become pressure. The absence of your old effort can become impossible to ignore. What they once leaned on without naming may now feel missing in a way they cannot easily replace. And when someone has been hiding behind emotional walls, control, delay, or avoidance, this kind of emptiness becomes confronting. It pushes unresolved feelings to the surface. It brings old fears out of the shadows. It forces a choice: stay protected and lose something rare, or risk vulnerability and finally become honest. That is not a small decision for someone who has lived by defense for a long time. So if they seem internally unsettled, if the energy feels different lately, if there is a strange closeness even in the quiet, there may be a reason. But hear this clearly. Their process is theirs. You are not meant to rescue them through more waiting, more over-explaining, or more emotional labor. Your role is not to drag them into awakening. Your role is to stand in your own truth so clearly that whatever is false can no longer survive around you. That is the real power here. Not forcing a door, not predicting an exact date, not chasing every signal, just becoming so honest with yourself that life can no longer keep you inside what is half real. That is when outcomes finally begin to show their true face. And yes, there may still be unfinished words between you. Things felt but never spoken. Truths sensed but never confirmed. Tenderness hidden behind pride. Regret buried under silence. Those things do not always vanish just because time passes. Sometimes they wait. Sometimes they gather weight. Sometimes they return in the right season because both people finally have enough courage to hold what once felt too dangerous. That may be part of what is building now. A conversation, a moment of reckoning, a return, or a clear ending spoken with honesty instead of confusion. Any of those can be sacred if truth is finally allowed into the room. This is why discernment matters so much in the next phase. Not every return is real growth. Not every message is maturity. Not every apology is readiness. You must watch what is lived, not only what is said. You must notice whether their presence brings steadiness or fresh chaos. You must ask whether the connection rises to meet the person you have become, or asks you to shrink back into the old version of yourself just to keep it. Please remember that. Because growth without discernment can still lead you back into pain. So if life opens the door again, enter with your eyes open and your self-respect intact. That is how love becomes truth, instead of another lesson you survive but do not keep. At the same time, if the path does not lead back to them, this journey will still not have been wasted. In many ways, it may have been preparing you for a deeper love than the one you first imagined. A love that matches your standards. A love that does not ask you to live in confusion. A love that is capable of showing up, speaking clearly, staying open, and choosing you in real life instead of only in private feeling. Sometimes a person arrives not to become the final destination, but to break open the road to it. They wake your heart, sharpen your discernment, and make it impossible for you to settle for less again. That is not failure. That is redirection at a very deep level. It may not feel comforting yet, but one day you may understand why this had to happen exactly as it did. Why the longing had to soften into wisdom. Why the silence had to teach you self-trust. Why the confusion had to push you into truth. For now, you do not need to solve the whole story tonight. You only need to stay honest with what your soul is learning. You only need to keep choosing integrity over illusion, peace over panic, clarity over fantasy. That choice alone begins to change your future. And sometimes, when you finally stop trying to force the answer, life reveals it more gently than you expected. So stay with this. The story is still moving, even if it is moving quietly. There is a quiet kind of strength growing in you now, and it is very different from the strength you use to perform for the world. This one is softer, but far more real. It does not need constant reassurance. It does not need to explain your heart to people who cannot feel what you feel. It does not keep scanning every day for signs because something deeper has started to settle. You are beginning to trust your own inner knowing in a cleaner way. Not in a frantic way, not in a desperate way, in a grounded way. That matters more than you realize, because once your inner state becomes steady, everything around you starts revealing itself more honestly. Real love does not use confusion as proof. Real connection does not demand that you twist yourself into knots just to keep a thread alive. Once you stop feeding uncertainty with fear, the entire landscape changes. Either the bond rises and meets you at your new level, or it exposes the limits it can no longer hide. Both outcomes are forms of truth. Both outcomes set you free from illusion. That is why this phase is so powerful, even if it feels slow. Life is not delaying you for no reason. It is clarifying you. It is teaching you how to stand in your worth without forcing, pleading, shrinking, or pretending. And that lesson will serve you long after this story takes its final shape. Maybe that is why your body has been trying to tell you something lately. Notice the difference between the feelings that tighten you and the feelings that open you. Anxiety rushes, truth settles, fantasy spins, peace deepens. When you think about this connection now, what happens in your chest, your breath, your stomach, your shoulders? This matters. Your body often knows before your mind catches up. If you feel a calmer kind of knowing beneath the pain, pay attention to that. If you feel more respect for yourself than before, pay attention to that. If you feel less willing to accept vague love, half effort, or emotional hiding, pay attention to that too. These are not small changes. They are proof that this experience has been transforming you from the inside out. And transformation does not happen so you can return to the old version of your life. It happens so you can step into something truer. Maybe that truth includes them, maybe it does not. But either way, you are being led toward a reality that matches who you are becoming. That is the real movement underneath all of this. Not just whether someone texts, returns, or explains themselves. The deeper movement is you rising into clearer love, stronger standards, and more honest self-trust. If you have made it this far, then you already know this is bigger than a simple crush, a passing attachment, or a random lesson. Something important has been unfolding in you. So as the next chapter begins to form, do not rush ahead of it. Let life show you what is real. Let love reveal its own level. Let people show whether they can meet the truth you now live in. If communication opens, meet it with calm and discernment. If silence continues, meet that with dignity and self-respect. If return happens, do not trade your peace for potential. If release becomes necessary, do not mistake that for loss of meaning. Some endings complete a lesson so that a greater beginning can enter, and some pauses are only preparing both hearts for a more honest meeting later on. You do not need to force either one. What you need now is steadiness. You need courage that is not loud. You need patience that is not passive. You need hope that does not abandon self-worth. Keep your energy clean. Keep your standards clear. Keep your heart open, but not unguarded. The next part of this story, whatever form it takes, will ask for maturity from both sides. And by everything you have lived through already, you are more ready than you think. Stay present. Stay grounded. Stay honest. Because what is truly meant to reach you will not need you to become smaller to receive it. And what cannot meet you there was never your final home in the first place. If this connection rises into truth, it will do so because both people became brave enough to stop hiding. If it dissolves into understanding, it will do that because your soul finally chose peace over confusion. Either way, you are not where you were when this all began. You have changed too much now. You have seen too much. You have felt too deeply to go back to pretending that shallow things can satisfy a heart like yours. That is the real gift hidden inside all this ache. You are no longer available for half-love. You are no longer willing to call uncertainty destiny just because it feels intense. You are learning how to love without abandoning yourself. You are learning how to wait without worshipping waiting. You are learning how to hope without handing your life away. And that may be the most important change of all. So if you feel that something is still unfinished here, do not let that turn into fear. Let it turn into awareness. Let it sharpen your honesty. Let it deepen your trust in what is real. And if a conversation, a message, a return, or a final truth is indeed approaching, you will be able to meet it from a stronger place than ever before. That is why this season happened, not to destroy you, to reveal you, to steady you, to prepare you. And what comes next will meet the version of you that finally knows your own worth.